I want to welcome all of you to this semester's presentation of the Introduction to Social Welfare. This is a cross-listed course in the Human Services Department and the Social Work Department, and so it is both Social Work and Human Services 106. Because this is a summer presentation, as you know, there is going to be an accelerated program for this course. The fact is that you are going to be getting the information and really doing all of the work that most students would do in 16 weeks in just 10 weeks. And so I'm hoping that you have your track shoes on and ready to go. This will be a pretty intensive presentation. You'll be working through projects more quickly than students typically do because of the shortness of the semester. You will have a week break over the 4th of July that will give you a chance to kind of catch your breath if you'd like to do that. Other students may want to use the time to concentrate on finishing up the student group semester project, which we'll be talking about in a few minutes. But in any event, I do hope that you'll keep up with the pace of the course throughout the semester. I want to stress with you before we begin that while this is an asynchronous course, it is nonetheless important for you to stay abreast of all of the readings and activities as each week goes along. This is not a course where you can simply choose to wait until late in the semester and then catch up on all of your readings and submit your work at that time. Really, the asynchronous part, the part that you control, needs to be considered to be within the week itself rather than within the semester, so that on a week-to-week basis you can probably choose where you want to do your reading, where you want to do your discussion board posts, although again that's limited by some of the structure of the course. But outside of the week, if you haven't completed your work during that week, you'll find that some of the stuff will be too late for you to do in subsequent weeks. I know that in a regular 16-week course, when students fall behind in an asynchronous class such as this, it becomes a big burden to catch up. In a 10-week course, it will be an even bigger burden. And so I just want to encourage you. I don't mean to stress you out or frighten you at the beginning of the semester, but I just want to stress with you that it's very important that you stay up to date throughout the semester. My name is Bill Galic, and I live in Kenai and have historically taught at the Kenai Peninsula College here in Kenai. Over the last several years, I have been also teaching classes for the UAA School of Social Work, in an online environment, and have been happy to be able to extend my classes to that school as well, and through that then the UAA Human Services Department as also. You can see here there's contact information for me. The first email address is the university email address, and that's the one that really the university wants you to use when you're communicating with me. But there's also a home email address here. That's the second email address. That is a private email. No one else accesses that email, and so you can feel as though you have privacy in your communication with me at either email address. Also, telephone numbers here. My cell phone number is pretty much the cell goes with me wherever I go. On the weekends, you're probably better off calling me on the home number. But again, I think probably the most efficient and effective way to reach me is through email. You have 3 books in this course. The first one, and this is the primary text, it's New History of Social Welfare. This is the 7th edition of this textbook by Phyllis Day. This last edition she has taken on a co-author by the name of Jerome Scheel. I think she's getting elderly. She's been teaching for a long time and has been, I think, identified as a professor emeritus for a number of years at a university or two in the lower 48. What you're going to find out about Phyllis Day is that she's a feminist, and when you read this book, you're going to probably find yourself stirred up a little bit. Some of you will identify strongly with what she's saying, but others of you may be a bit stirred up and even irritated with some of her comments. But that's one of the reasons why I like this text, is because it takes material that has the potential to be pretty dry and makes it very lively. And so I hope that you will find her material very challenging as you go through the semester, because it is that kind of text. I've been using this text. I started teaching this course. I think I first did this course in the late 80s or early 90s at KPC. And this was the textbook that I first used. In fact, probably the first or second edition of this book. And I've tried a couple other textbooks over the years and came back to this one because it just is the best text that I can find for this course. Now, the course is organized around the outline of this textbook so that it is a historical perspective on social welfare. And the benefit to this is that you can understand better what's going on in America and our social welfare programs now if you understand where it was 100 years ago and 200 years ago and even before that. You can kind of see how the attitudes about social welfare clients and social welfare programming has developed. And Phyllis Day does a very good job of putting it in the context of civil rights. And so throughout her book, we'll be looking at special populations such as African Americans and women and gays and lesbians and different kinds of special groups like that, and how policies have impacted those groups throughout history. The other text that you'll be reading, the larger book, is a book by Karen Seacom called So You Think I Drive a Cadillac? Welfare Recipients' Perspectives on the System and Its Reform. Now, Phyllis Day's book looks at it, social welfare, from a historical perspective. Seacom's book shows you what social welfare is like for its recipients today. And this is a really well done book. It's a smaller book than the day text, and I've had some students tell me in the past that they think she repeats herself, but I don't really find herself so much repetitive as sometimes just kind of saying things again at different points in the textbook to help you understand the importance of that particular point. But this will give you a look at the present day clients of the system and how the system actually affects them and helps them and hurts them as well. You also will be reading a book called The Jungle, and many of you may have read this in high school. A lot of times high school English classes require this. Teachers will require this book. This is a book that was first published over 100 years ago, as you can see, and Upton Sinclair was the author of this, and I like to compare Sinclair to Michael Moore. Michael Moore today irritates the heck out of a lot of people with his movies. He really challenges the institutions of society and the things we hold near and dear to our hearts. And a lot of people really dislike Michael Moore because of that, because he really just, kind of stirs them up and challenges their thinking. Upton Sinclair and a few other writers 100 years ago were very much the same. They were called the muckrakers, if you remember from your American history lessons. And Sinclair, among others, really was essentially challenging the conditions of our society. And in this particular book, Sinclair takes on capitalism in general. Michael Moore just did this recently in a movie called Capitalism: A Love Story, I believe. And so Sinclair 100 years ago did the same thing. But what is interesting about this is at that time, the socialism as a political movement was really sweeping the globe. It wasn't too many years later when the Bolsheviks overthrew the czars in Russia and established the communist state that became the Soviet Union in Russia. And socialism, socialist thought was beginning to influence political decisions being made throughout Europe as well. And in America, there was a large number of socialists who were organizing themselves and became a fairly large influence on our political picture, our political horizon 100 years or so ago. Perhaps somewhat like the Tea Party today is doing, in the opposite direction, of course, though the Tea Party being a really right-wing organization, so to speak. But I think even more strongly than the Tea Party, I think the socialist movement was quite a strong force in these days. In fact, there's a rather famous socialist by the name of Eugene V. Debs who ran for president a number of times in the first 3 or 4 elections of the 1900s. And just a kind of a telling point, I think in 1916 he received the most votes that a third-party candidate ever received percentage-wise, I believe, as a socialist candidate. In 1920, that was when he ran for president in 1916. He ran for president again in 1920, but from prison. There were some things, some laws that enabled the government to put him away as a subversive, more or less. But he continued to campaign from jail, and collected quite a few votes in 1920 as well. So, in any event, The Jungle is a book that will show you what it was like in America before we really had a system of social welfare established. Um, it's melodramatic. The first 50 to 100 pages are pretty pretty dry in a sense, in that, and then they go into a lot of intricacies about the rituals in a wedding that this family goes through. But please bear with it and follow the story, and you will see what happened to individuals when social welfare programs weren't around. I think it is unlikely that Jurgis Rudkis, who's the protagonist in the story, actually lived, but people experienced what he experienced. Whether any one person experienced all of the trials and tribulations that he faced, I really couldn't tell you. But I can tell you from a personal standpoint, my grandparents had immigrated from Hungary around the time of the publication of this book, just a few years before, and I know they experienced some of the things that Jurgis experiences in this book, and so this is a real thing, and it really did happen back in those days, and so. I hope that when you read this book, which you'll be doing in fairly short order, that you can understand it in the context of its times and understand how it contributes to the lessons of this class. The course syllabus has its own item in the course menu in Blackboard. If you look down the left side of the course when you open it, the course will open to the announcements page, and on the left side then is the course menu. And if you find the item that says syllabus and calendar, you'll find the course syllabus there. You should open that syllabus link, download it and print it, and keep a hard copy of the syllabus with you throughout the semester. Please be sure to read that syllabus cover to cover. If you have any questions, contact me through email or by phone if you need to. But please do be sure that you are familiar with what's in this syllabus, and because it includes all the elements of the work that you're going to have to do in order to get the grade that you want. The syllabus spells out how you earn your points, and here's a listing of the different elements of grading for the semester. Participation and attendance. This is an asynchronous course. We never actually meet face to face. We don't have any meetings where we have to tune in at a certain time or anything like this. But Blackboard tells me when you're in the course and when you're not, when you've last entered, those kinds of things. And so I can use those tools in Blackboard for the instructor, as well as noting your participation in things like the discussion boards, blog entries, your group work, all those kinds of things. All of these can contribute to your participation and attendance grade. If you are working through this semester and and doing all the things that you're asked to do, you can certainly plan on getting a full 50 points for that. In the discussion boards, each week there will be a question. One week there will be 2 questions, because just to even out the points, I'm going to give you a second discussion board in one of those weeks down the road. And we'll be talking more about how you earn the points in discussion boards in a moment, but there will be a question related to the reading material from that week, and we'll ask you to kind of think about some things and make some posts about how you respond to that, and then also to interact with your classmates by reading their posts and responding to their posts as well. More on that in a few moments. You have a blog. This is what we call it, an e-scrapbook. In the face-to-face version of this course, students had an opportunity to either do a research paper or to collect a scrapbook of articles about social welfare and civil rights issues throughout the semester, and nearly all the students would opt for the scrapbook option. And so here you have an opportunity more or less to do an e-scrapbook, and this is really, you're not scrapbooking articles, but you are finding an article in a paper, in the news, on particular blog sites that you might be following, social or political blogs, magazines, wherever you might see this, and comment, summarize that particular article and comment on it with your response to the article. More on that in a few moments. Now, the difference between the discussion board and the blogs is that the blogs are private, so they're just between you and me. And so if you have some reluctance to express some views in a discussion board, in a more public environment of the discussion board, public being within the class, you have an opportunity to just share your thoughts with me personally in this blog site. Also, sometimes it is the nature of this material to stir things up within ourselves. It may bring up things about our own families, our own lives, our own values, and this is another opportunity for you to communicate those with me in a more personal environment, as though you might come up to me at break or at the end of class in the classroom and say, "Can I speak with you for a few minutes? I want to talk over something with you." This is an opportunity for that. There will be a paper on the jungle that you're going to be reading. You're going to read the book, do this short paper, 3 to 6 pages, I believe it is, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then once you've done that, it's done. That's worth 50 points. The major project other than your readings and discussion boards would be your group research and written project, and as you can see, that's worth 150 points. So this is something you really want to put a good effort into. More on that in a moment. And finally, there are 2 tests. One, I believe, is week 5, the other week 10. That is counting the break week in there, so it's the next to last week. Well, in any event, 2 tests, one worth 40 points, the second one worth 60. They are multiple choice true-false questions. Multiple choice, actually, I think. So altogether, 100% is 550 points. Now you will also get bonus points, and this would be up to 50 points for discussion board responses to classmates' projects. When your group projects are done, I'm going to post them in a discussion board forum, and you'll have the opportunity to read the other students' papers and go in and comment on them and participate in a discussion board and earn up to 10 points for each discussion board there regarding the group papers. Now, I want to tell you that Blackboard gets confused by bonus points, and I've had students tell me that Blackboard tells them they have a 47% in my class when my paperwork shows them, at a strong A. Blackboard will have all of the possibilities of grades of points that you can earn put in it. So, for instance, the week 8 blog will be there and will show 10 points possible, but you won't have a score in it, and so Blackboard may figure that as a 0 and tell you that you're doing badly when you just haven't had an opportunity to get there yet. So my advice to you is don't worry too much about the percentages that Blackboard tells you about. Pay attention to your total points, compare it to the grading scale that's on the syllabus and it will have here in a moment, and that's how you can tell how you're progressing. And so here is the grading scale, in fact, and you see it's pretty standard grading scale for the university, both in terms of total points and in terms of percentages. Now, the total points, these 550 points, do not include the 50 points, the bonus points or extra credit points that I was just talking about. And so you actually could earn up to 600 points if you got all possible points in the course. But 550 points will represent 100%. Talked about participation and attendance, and I think that's fairly clear. Now for the discussion boards, each week your new lessons will open on a Sunday morning, and generally I have it set to open at 5 minutes past midnight on Sunday morning, and so 12:05 a.m. each Sunday morning after this week, because this week opened on Monday because that's when the semester started. 12:05 a.m. Sunday mornings now for the rest of the summer semester, your new lessons will open up for the week. There will be reading assignments. You'll have lectures there. Again, because of the accelerated nature of this course, you're going to have sometimes 3 or 4 lectures in 1 week, and I try diligently to keep them at a reasonable length, but sometimes they push more like 45 minutes, somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes each, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. So you'll find your readings and the lectures there, and when you're done with all of those things, then you will find a link for the discussion board, and you go to that link and there's a question for you to respond to that should help gather some of your thoughts about what you read about and what you heard me talk about in the lectures. So you make a response to that question, a minimum of 150 words. Longer posts are encouraged, but minimum of 150 words. And that would be, those posts would be made by the following Sunday. So then by the Thursday after that Sunday, you would go back in and read at least two of your classmates' posts and make a shorter response to them. That doesn't have to be 150 words. These responses to classmates' posts can be shorter, but they should be meaningful. You don't want to just say, I agree or you're right. I want to see, for a quality post, I want to see you actually comment on what your classmate said, and contribute to a discussion. Think of this as a discussion, and this is your opportunity to interact with your students and share with your classmates and to share your ideas and your thoughts, pro and con. So this is how discussion boards work, and so 10 points for an original post of at least 150 words plus 2 responses to classmates' posts. If you post less than that, your grades will be lower, more or less. It has to be kind of a subjective decision on my part, but you'll lose some points if you don't do that fully. Now the grading is done the weekend after your responses to classmates' posts are made. And so really, if you look at the outline here I have for questions that are, and this says 2 questions. Really there will only be 1 question. Generally speaking, 1 week there may be 2. So the assignments for questions open on Sunday, June 2nd, let's say. So you post should be one original response. I didn't catch this, I'm sorry, but 1 original response by Sunday, June 9th. That's the 150 words or less or more. And then by Thursday, June 13th, this is like a week and a half after the learning unit opened, you have your 2 responses into your fellow classmates' posts also. So that gives you a few days to read through the other posts and everybody to get their posts in and discuss some back and forth. So therefore, I wait to grade these discussion boards until all of that's done, and so the grading is done about 2 weeks after the learning unit opens, and so you can kind of see how that would go. So and I have to tell you, occasionally I fall behind on these things, and so bear with me if I don't get the grading in. I'm hopeful that over the summer I'll be able to do that. So this is a public post, public within the class. Now, your current events post in your weekly blog. This is your e-scrapbook I was talking about, and this is how this should be structured. You find your article, you find your story in the news, wherever it is. You title it, tell me where I can find it, and give a brief summary of the current event related to social welfare or civil rights, and then an additional commentary that includes your reaction to the item, and that commentary should be at least 150 words. So you have a summary, and then you have another paragraph with 150 words or more commentary on that article. This is your reaction. This is what your thoughts are about that. And again, this is a private post. It's worth 10 points. This is about current events, and so this is not something that 3 or 4 weeks down into the semester you can go back and catch up on all 3 of them. You really should be doing this week by week, and if you don't, you may not get points for it, and if you do get points, they'll probably be reduced. So this is a current event thing. The idea of this is to have you watching the news and listening to stories that are going on around you and relating it to the material that you're reading. This is kind of what brings it alive for you. So actually, because we don't have a blog this week, there's only 9 blogs during the semester, and I'll be adding in an extra discussion board just to even out this thing, so that altogether 110 points for discussion boards and 90 points for blogs. That's basically 1 each week of each for 200 points total. What makes a good blog post? What makes a good discussion board post? How do I figure out when to give you 10 points or 6 points or 2 points or 5 points? All of this is in a menu item on your course called Board and Blog Grading Guidelines. I talk a little bit about this in the syllabus. This is also in this week's learning unit under how your posts will earn points. But throughout the semester, all you'll have to do is click on the board and blog grading guidelines in the course menu to remind yourself of what you need to do to get a full 10 points. I get emails from students sometimes wanting to know why they only got 7 points on a post when they think they should have had 10. And what I say to them first is go back and read board and blog grading guidelines, but here's why. And if you could, when you're not sure why you didn't get full credit, go back and read these guidelines first, because your answer is probably there. But if you can't figure it out from that, write to me, and I'll try to help you understand. For the jungle, you'll actually want to have this book read by week 4, and you want to then write a paper of 3 to 6 pages in length that summarizes the books, gives me your reaction to the book, and ties the book into course concepts. The paper actually is being presented at the same time that you're reading about the Progressive Era, which is the moment in history, more or less, that the jungle exists in, and so that's why it's time for that. And so this is something that I would encourage you quickly to get that book and get it read. It's not a huge book by any means, and although it's kind of dense, it is a book that's relatively easy to read. I will, when the time comes, I'm going to give you an assignments link in the course, and you'll submit that paper on the assignments link. You don't email it to me. The university doesn't want you emailing me coursework, and so we'll give you a link in the course where you can put the paper. Again, the paper, a good paper, a full credit paper, will have a brief summary of the book that just kind of shows me you've read the book, your reaction, and ties the course into the course, or the material in the book into the course concepts. And you'll figure that out, I think, as time goes on. I want to say, by the way, you can get any edition of this book you can find out there, and it's been printed and reprinted and reprinted and reprinted. And in fact, if for those of you that have a Kindle or a Kindle-like device, I think Amazon and probably other places have a free download of this book, and so you don't even really have to pay for this book anymore. But do get the unabridged version. Don't get any book that is shortened, because you'll be missing some important points if you read anything other than the unabridged version. The big project for the semester is going to be your group research project, and students are kind of surprised at first to hear about a group project in an asynchronous course, and you wonder, how can you do this when you never see each other, and you may live in different communities, different states even, for that matter. And the fact is, it's very easy to do. And when I assign these projects, I don't know that I have it actually listed on here, but I'm going to try to pull your groups together by week 2, I believe, or week 3 at the very latest. Each of you will have your own group site, and so only the members of your group will be able to access this, and you'll have communication tools in there. So you'll have emails, each other's email addresses. You'll have your own discussion board if you want to use that. You'll have a thing called a file exchange where you can put papers in and share it with other members of your group. And so we'll get that established relatively quickly in the semester. And how this is going to work is that you and 1 or 2 other classmates, it just depends on the number of students that are in the class, will be assigned to a position on a controversial topic, and that's your team. So you may be arguing for a position or against a position. And then the other half of your group will be a similar team who will argue the opposite side. So you may have yes, they have no. And your group then, all of you, all 4 or 5 of you, put together one paper that you present with the pro and con, or yes and no sides, clearly identified. And that paper then is what you give to me. So the 4 or 5 of you write one paper. You'll put it in your group file transfer site, and that'll be more evident in a little while. And I'll read the paper, grade it, and give it back to you. And also, I will take your paper before it's marked up and graded and post it in a discussion board forum for other students to read later. More about that in a moment. But My advice to you is to get started early on this. Do not ignore emails from your fellow group members. If you don't have the habit of checking your university email regularly, you need to do this for this course. I would recommend you check your university email address every day, because there will be important announcements coming to you from me about the class, and also your classmates and your group mates are going to be writing to you. And if you're a procrastinator, you create an incredible amount of anxiety among other students, among your classmates, when you put things off. And so please don't do that. Please be responsive, and work together in this project. You'll find this to be a very rewarding project by the time it's done. This is the feedback I get from students on this. 2 tests. Test 1, 40 points. Test 2, 60 points. Multiple choice questions, largely about material. Well, it will be about material from the textbooks, both Seacom and Day, and also from our lectures. The tests will open in Blackboard. You won't have to go anywhere to have it proctored. You can do it from the safety and comfort of your own home, in your jammies, if you want to do it, with a cup of coffee and a cigarette at your side. However, and you can have your books open in front of you. So I just know nobody has to pretend that they're not looking at their book or anything like this. The only thing I ask of you is to be sure you do your own test and that you don't team up with somebody else. And in fact, everybody's going to get a different test because of the way Blackboard will do this, so that none of you will get the same test. The test is open for 11 days, and so it will open on a Thursday of the particular week that the test is in, and it will stay open for the rest of that week plus the week after. So you'll have 11 days to take the test. And the way it's set up, you will have 2 attempts. You can take two efforts at this, so that the first time you take it, if you're unhappy with your score, you'll be able to go back in and take a second test, and the higher of your 2 scores is the thing that will be recorded in Blackboard, the higher score. The tests are timed, however. I believe the first test is a 60-minute test and the second one is 90, and so you have only a certain amount of time to get these questions answered, and so you'll need to have read the book and know where the answers are before you take the test. That's certainly my advice to you. More on that. There's plenty of instruction in the syllabus, and when the tests open, you'll have all the instructions you need there as well. Wow, I got fancy there, didn't I? I'm not sure. I've been encouraged not to use those kind of fancy transitions, because I know that it's a problem for people that have low bandwidth, and I apologize for that. That one, somehow or other, I still haven't managed to get that out of there. But in any event, back to the group papers. When the group papers are completed, I will grade your paper, return it to you, and post your ungraded paper in a discussion board form. And this will be the extra credit opportunity for all of you to read each other's papers and participate in a discussion board about those topics. That will be in the last 2 or 3 weeks of the semester when you have that opportunity. Back to the test. I should probably move these slides around a little. When you have a test, don't miss the closing date, because when the test is closed, it's not available to you again. And a question came up this past semester about bonus points. And I just want to clarify that the expectation as far as your responses for the full 10 points on these bonuses is the same as they would be for any other discussion board. An original post of about 150 words minimum, plus 2 responses to other students. So it won't be, if you want a full 10 points for those bonus points, you can't just go in and make a post on a student's paper. But you also need to be discussing this by responding to other students as well, just like in any other discussion board. Really, I want to see in your original post in this that you've read the paper, and this is true for any of the discussion boards. A good, healthy discussion board original post is going to show me that you have read that you've read the material, that you are familiar with the material. in this particular case, that you've read the student's papers, and simply saying, well, I've read your paper and isn't really what it is. I mean, you should be responding to some content in the paper. And it may seem like a lot for a few points, and if that's the case, I guess you just won't put in all that effort. But the idea is here that you're going to learn a lot from your students' projects as well. And and I should tell you, by the way, on these discussion boards, you're going to be assigned to a topic, and you may not agree with your position. If it's a discussion board on whether or not abortion should be legal, let's say, you may be a strong pro-lifer and believe that abortion should not be legal, but you may be assigned to the position that argues for abortion. And these are going to be random assignments, random group assignments as well. And so this is an opportunity for you. You're going to find that if you're arguing, if you have to research the opposite of your own position on a topic, you're going to learn an awful lot about that. Just a little bit about the course itself, how the course shell works. Your course will open to announcements in Blackboard, and I will be posting information there that's important to the course for you. So please, when you open the course, check and see if there's been a new announcement. Now, when I post announcements, I also tell Blackboard to send you an email with that announcement in it. So if you're checking your email every day, you will have seen this already. A few people I've been getting, and it's already started, in fact, because I sent out emails to everybody in the course here a week or so ago. A few of you have some problems with your email accounts, and I'm getting messages that says that they can't be delivered to your email account with UAA. Be sure your email account is working properly, and if you're seeing announcements posted in the course and you're not getting emails about that, then you have a problem probably with your email account, and you need to talk to IT, and don't let them tell you they can't do anything about it. It's vital that it get fixed for you. So this is your responsibility. It is not mine. I do whatever I can to communicate with you, but you have got to make sure your email account's maintained properly. It could be nothing more than that you haven't emptied out your email account in a while, but in any event, check your email every day. The most important link in this course is your weekly course content link. This is where each week's content becomes available to you every Sunday morning at 12:05. Through this link, you will access your reading assignments, you'll access the lectures for the week, you'll access discussion boards and blog sites and other things as well. It is very, very important that you work through these slides one by one and not miss any of that content, because you will miss important points to score or important opportunities rather to score points if you do. Read every slide each week to the very end. And so again, weekly course content, the most important link in the course. In Start Here, there was a panel on Netiquette, and again, I just want to kind of reinforce with this that there are certain kinds of rules that we have to respect when we're interacting in an online environment. Remember that online interactions lack the verbal and nonverbal cues that we get in our daily interactions with each other, so that we don't just hear words when we talk to other people. Our mind is processing the person's facial expressions, their tone of voice, their body language. You don't get all of those things in an online environment. You only get the words. And so while we might put all those together to understand the speaker's intent in a face-to-face interaction, in an online environment we just have words. And as we all know, emails and online communications are a very poor way of communicating one's intent. And so keep that in mind when you write, and understand that all those other things, if you're joking around with somebody, sometimes sarcasm doesn't exactly come through as sarcasm. It comes through as very hurtful comments. So always remember, other people will read what you write. They have feelings. Sometimes they make mistakes. Please forgive them those mistakes, but never threaten, never post comments that are derogatory of others. For this week's discussion board, your assignment is going to be to write about 150 words or so, and again, I encourage you to write more. That tells everybody who you are. And here are some ideas of things that you might want to write about. Things that you like while you're taking the course, things that interest you, where you're heading in your career, what's your major. That's the question we always asked each other. What's your assignment? What's your major? But when I was in college, but that was a long time ago. And I think for the discussion board, just kind of give a sign, a clue of who it is that's at the other end there, so that we each know a little bit about who we're interacting with. I'd encourage you to post photos, and do this in any of your posts throughout the semester. Certainly no requirement to do that, and I know some people are concerned about privacy internet privacy, and so it certainly isn't an expectation. But if you're comfortable with posting pictures, if it doesn't not even have to be of yourself, it can be of things that are important to you. It's just another way to make that post more interesting and informative for others. Oh, and I just want to say now on this one, since this is open on Monday, this post should be done by next Sunday night. So if you're listening to this, say, I'm being optimistic here, on the first day of the semester, May 20th, the, your discussion board post should be posted by Sunday, May 26th, by the evening, and then by the following Thursday, which would be I think May 30th, if my mind is working properly, you should have gone back in and made at least 2 responses to your classmates' posts. So don't just post, read each other's posts and comment on them also. And grading for this then would happen in 2 weeks. So in the week ahead for your eScrapbook blog, watch the news for current events related to social welfare or to civil rights. Examples of these kinds of things might be news about social programming, social programs, the education budget, those kinds of things, welfare reform issues, food stamps. There's been some talk about food stamps lately in the news. The budget itself and whether to cut what they call entitlements is the latest thing they're calling social welfare benefits entitlements. Civil rights. Involving, could be gays and lesbians, it could be African Americans, it could be Native Americans, Alaska Natives, could be women, could be the elderly, all those kinds of things. Healthcare reform, immigration, all these things really, as you see here, and more, are areas that will relate to what we're reading about this semester. So listen for a current event article, and then go into your eScrapbook blog, which you will find, well, not this week, but starting in week 2, you'll find it in your weekly course content, and you'll see where you just click on the link and you can go right there where it take you where you can post it, and then post your summary and your reaction. There is in the board and blog grading guidelines section, and I think also in this week's section about how your post earns points, I posted a particularly good example of what I think is a very good 10-point eScrapbook blog from a few semesters back, or last semester I think it was, by another student. So there's a kind of a shining example for you there. Remember, your reaction itself should be a minimum of 150 words. That does not include the summary. In the weeks ahead also, or in the week ahead rather, as you read, I think you're reading the first 3 chapters in the day text for your assignment in the next week. In particular, I want you to pay attention to the 9 American values that she talks about. Try to understand what those are about and what she's trying to say about them, because this is one of these key foundation concepts that we're going to work through and refer back to throughout the semester. And so that will tie up our discussion of the course for this week, and that's all you get for a lecture from me. Next week, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon your perspective, you're going to have 3 chapters to listen to, and I'll be talking about each of the first 3 chapters of the day text. Do let me know if you're left with any questions after this. Otherwise, I will talk with you again next week, and I hope you enjoyed the material and that you have a great week ahead. Bye.